What's up, everyone, and welcome to Drop In, where we have open, authentic conversations about all things mental health, including viral coping trends in mental health. I had to look down at what the title of this episode was, but Jackie's here, Justin's here. What's going on, Jackie?
Hey. Can I just preface this by saying I was so humbled trying to look this stuff up before the podcast today. I've never heard of some of these things.
You haven't heard of these?
There's one that I didn't ever hear of. The other things I've either could put two and two together to figure out what that meant because I knew what it was. But I pride myself on not being a boomer and actually staying up on current trends. I have definitely been known to ask a client if I don't know what they're saying. I'll be like, rewind, pause. What does that mean? Right? But typically I don't feel like I have to do that very much. So when I was researching some of these things and preparing for our episode today, I was truly humbled.
Listen, things are changing all the time. And just to preface, these are Gen Z viral trends for coping with mental health because generational differences come and go. The ways we cope, maybe they're similar ways of coping just by new names.
Yeah.
But we had been sort of noting these different terms that pop up. Or maybe just I had been noting since I'm on TikTok. And
that was my conclusion, was that I need to make a TikTok in order to just stay up to date on everything.
Even the wording, I need to make a TikTok. I'm sorry, that aged you. That I don't know. That just immediately I just pictured you 75
with my
years
birthday
old.
coming up. Really making me feel old here, even though I'm younger than you, but it's fine.
Mid-30s.
We'll let it go.
Mid-30s knocking on the door because we always round up.
That's rude, actually.
I don't even know if that's true. Let's start with this first one.
Okay.
All the rage, bathroom camping. Before I drop what bathroom camping is, had you ever heard of this before?
I had never heard of it, but I have definitely talked about it. So no, I've never heard the term, but yes, I knew what it was.
Hey, we love terms to describe things that have probably been happening forever. Bathroom camping is this, where people spend extended periods of time in the bathroom, not to use it traditionally. I don't know why that cracks me up. Like the traditional way to use the bathroom. I just picture someone coming in with gloves and just,
in a ball gown?
In a ball gown. I have no idea why the traditional cracks me up. But as a way to relax, de-stress, and escape from overstimulation or overwhelming situations, it involves using the bathroom as a sanctuary or a private space for decompression. Hasn't this been happening for forever?
Yes.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better because I'm was my whole high school experience people constantly asking to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
And teachers be like, hell no.
Yeah.
You go to the bathroom every class. You're not going right now.
Yeah. No, and that was my thought. I was like, yeah, we've always done this, right? Whether it was at school or even at work, you need a break, or yeah, even in life. Sometimes you need a little bit of a sensory break. And these are things that I talk about with my clients. I just never have used this terminology.
Which again, we love. I love a nice term, especially when it sort of wraps up something that is going unsaid in some ways. So What do you think about this bathroom camping? You're a psychologist. Is this good? Is this bad? What first comes to mind for you?
I am team bathroom camping.
You're okay. Just fully place yourself over there.
Yes. Fully in it.
Why? Why is this?
As someone with a neurodivergent brain that gets overstimulated easily by sensory input, lights, sounds, too much of, the environment, right?
Why'd you just point at me? Lights. sounds, loud noises.
I plead the fifth. I am someone who very much needs a sensory break. You know, as I'm going through my day, whether it's again like the sensory overload, whether it's the overstimulation or overwhelm of the day, I need sensory breaks. And sometimes that's going outside, sometimes that's going for a drive and just listening to nothing, or going to the bathroom and just sitting in there. Like if I'm overwhelmed or frustrated or upset, you'll see me like disappear to the bathroom for 5 minutes and I'm just literally sitting on the floor, like regulating, because there's no sound. It feels comfortable because it's cozy in there. And some strange reason, like tile bathrooms just feel regulating and cozy.
It's so interesting because a lot of this in my mind, there's nuance that we're going to get into about whether I think anything's good or bad. But it kind of depends on what bathroom are you picturing. Because I almost immediately went to like a high school bathroom.
Yeah, that's less regulating.
But I feel like this is a lot of the ways it gets used. You talk about overstimulation. There's some classrooms, gosh, I remember from high school where you're just like, as soon as you walk in, it's like, I remember like my heart like skipping a few beats up because of the personalities who are in there, the way the teacher ran that class. Like there's just a lot of factors that you're like, oh my God, like this is gonna be a long hour to get through this. But it's interesting because when I think of the things that you're describing of like controlled environment, like there is something about, as much as I definitely meet criteria for claustrophobia many times over, there's something about a confined space, like the 4 stalls, or like, the private bathroom you have in your home, that it feels cozy, cave-like, protective.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that is the safe space that a lot of times we're needing in those moments, just to like, again, take a break from what is going on in our lives at any given moment, whether that is school or, you know, a class that's overwhelming, whether that's work, whether that's being a parent with screaming kids all the time, whether that is just life in general. Sometimes we need a little bit of a break. And I think that's one of those places where we don't feel guilty going to, because it's part of like a necessary evil in some ways, that like no one is judging us for going to the bathroom. So it's just that place where it's almost like guilt-free is the way that I think about it.
Everybody goes to the bathroom.
Everybody poops.
It's factual. Somebody just like swerved off the road listening to that. Like, what? To me, where the rubber hits the road, and a lot of this is like, what are you doing in there? It's not that I'm not fully team bathroom camping, and I'm not fully anti, but what are you doing in there?
Well, I guess it depends on why I'm in there and like what is overstimulating to me. Because if it is truly like too many sensory inputs, sometimes that is me literally sitting on the floor and just like closing my eyes and breathing. If it's something where I'm upset or I'm really angry and I'm trying to like slow myself down so that I don't volcano and fully crash out, I am likely on my phone, either like playing a game to try to regulate or distract myself, or splashing water on my face to try to like slow my system down. So I guess it, for me anyway, kind of depends on what is the overstimulation or what is the overwhelm or reason that I'm actually going in there. Because it does look different.
Absolutely. Let's play a little game called Yay or Nay.
Okay.
I'll give you an example, and maybe you're going to be all yay in every example, and I don't mind if you are.
Challenge me, because now I'll question it.
17-year-old in high school hates this gym class, I'm digging into Jackie's past with this one. Hates
Never
this
heard of it.
gym class, feels super overwhelmed, but also has social anxiety, hangs out in the bathroom to vape every single gym class.
For how long? The entire gym class?
As long as they can before they get pulled out. Yay or nay?
Like-
Psychologist Jackie.
Okay, but like the entire class? Like, are you cutting the class?
As long as yes, that's their intent. I'm like, I'm going to hide in here as long as I can till the gym teacher comes out. Yo, you got to get back out here. What's going on in there?
Oh. I think I'm reverting back to my high school self, and I'm like, I never actually went to the class.
You did full skip.
I just did full skip.
Forget high school, Jackie.
Okay.
Put on your psychologist hat.
Okay.
This is where when we try to make recommendations of, is this coping going to be helpful for your mental health?
Correct.
Yay or nay?
In that situation, nay, because that's avoidance.
Okay, here we go. What is coming up that's making you lean that way in this situation?
So if you are, I think the distinction for me is if you are using that as a break to regulate so that you can return back to that environment, I think that is helpful always. I don't know many situations, and maybe you can, throw some more at me that it might be questionable.
I'm going to ponder that for a second.
But when it's used to fully avoid something and you're not necessarily like planning to return to that thing, that's just active avoidance. And that we know is not great for anxiety because it just exacerbates that cycle. We know that that's not great in terms of coping because avoidance coping is definitely not as effective. If anything, it's more repressive in a lot of ways, as actually being able to face that thing. But where I think the rubber hits the road for me is if you are using that to cope with stress, anxiety, social anxiety, whatever, overstimulation or overwhelm that you're feeling, and you're planning to regulate during that time and then return back to face that scary thing, that environment, whatever it is, that's where I think it's very helpful.
So a high school student gets in a pattern of right before an exam, they go to the bathroom, put themselves in the stall, take some deep breaths, come back and take the exam.
Pro.
Yay.
Yay.
You're like, what's this game again?
Yay, period.
Period. I agree.
Do you?
You didn't even touch the vaping element, which I thought
I
you'd be
just totally forgot about that aspect.
The avoidance maybe is more key. But this is why I'm like, are the things you're doing in there restorative?
Right.
Or do they have, the potential to harm you? Mm-hmm. Do they have the potential to sort of get you stuck in a loop that isn't good for you?
Right. Is this something that is contributing to the avoidance cycle of whatever is going on?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like my brain goes to a lot of other examples. So here's another one.
Okay.
30-something-year-old doesn't love their mother-in-law.
Okay.
Every Christmas goes into the bathroom 3 times to regulate.
Is there more to that?
It hits the vape. No, there's not.
I mean, again, I think it goes back to, are you using that time to regulate and take a break so that you don't do something that is impulsive or say something that is impulsive? Probably a very good thing, right?
You're about to light the Christmas tree on fire. Just
thinking consequentially here, right?
Fair.
I think it's always important to have a space or have something to regulate yourself. And sometimes that is staying in the situation and taking deep breaths. But sometimes you do need to actually separate from that environment. And that's why I think this is something that's so helpful, because it truly does separate you from whatever that environment is for just the few minutes that you are, using that tool. And then you are actively going and returning back to the environment that you were in. So I think that for me is the big distinction. Are you using this fully as avoidance to just get out of a situation and stay there for as long as humanly possible and you disappear for 4 hours? Or is this a tool that you are using to regulate yourself and then return back to the environment that you were in and, be restored in some way?
It's interesting in these different scenarios, the theme of control keeps popping up in my brain. You don't got control of your mother-in-law.
Right.
So in that scenario, it's like I have a lot more of like, I understand more of the utility to sort of reset, restore, and kind of come back, a little more grounded.
Right.
In scenarios where we have more control, like it's not another human sort of overstimulating, overstepping, or like judging us. It's not that I would say to never do this, but I worry about the pattern. Like, do you chronically get stuck in a pattern that you have to keep stepping out? Where can we lean in that environment and sort of regulate, work on some things so you don't have to? And again, this is why things like this are so nuanced.
Right.
Because I wouldn't say I'm like team bathroom camping like you are. I'm certainly not against it, but I can draw up scenarios in my brain where I'm like, you're leaving that class 2 to 3 times. You're a college student now. You're stepping in and out of that lecture hall 2 to 3 times. You're missing a lot of information.
Right.
And it's like, okay, how can we get you to regulate within?
Right.
Like, what are the unique strategies? Can we get an earbud in with some classical music? Like, I'm thinking of different strategies I've implemented with people before where the bathroom camping might become a pattern that's doing more harm than good.
Right. Well, and the way that I think about it too, even as a tool, is almost what are you using within that bathroom environment that is helpful for you? Is it that you are getting a sensory break, right?
Sure.
So yes, noise canceling headphones can also have a similar effect.
Right.
Or, if the light is too bright, sometimes wearing like, dimmer glasses, or
I've had people wear sunglasses.
Even. Yeah. Or are you sitting in there and taking deep breaths? Or are you splashing cold water on your face? Whatever it is, how do we take those strategies from within the bathroom camping environment and translate them to that actual environment? Right? So can we take some of those tools that are effective within that context and utilize them so that maybe you don't need to step out as many times? Or maybe it is something where you're, carrying around a sensory tool that is helpful. It's interesting. So one of the things that I was seeing a lot too when I was looking into a lot of this was people in our field mostly saying that this is a trauma response. So people that typically would go to the bathroom, or even if this is something that they've been doing since they were young without even necessarily knowing what they were doing, that is a trauma response. What's your thought on that?
It could be. But this is where I just feel this is where I get a little cynical on the internet. Anything could be a trauma response.
Right.
Anything could be. Does that mean it is? No.
Right.
Again, the social anxiety scenario I brought up, you can get in scenarios where overstimulation.
Right.
There's other scenario anxiety that it's not necessarily trauma, but could it be? Of course it could be. You come from a home that's very unpredictable. There's emotional abuse, maybe even physical abuse. Oh, of course.
Right.
It could be a trauma response.
Sure.
But sometimes on the internet, you see people grab the biggest eyeball lever and be like, it's trauma. And it's like, hold up.
Yeah.
It could be.
Sure.
But now everybody that feels like they're going to the bathroom, because they're anxious or they deal with perfectionism and here comes a test, that's not trauma.
Right.
Again, and it's not, I always get stuck in this conversation. It doesn't mean it's any less important.
Right.
Because it's impacting your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one hill that I certainly will die on. It's like, it doesn't have to be trauma to be really important to get curious about and to sort of be like, okay, how is this pattern impacting me?
Right.
What is it doing for me? And how is it working against me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's interesting how for sure it can be.
Sure.
Especially like you said, if you grow up in an environment that either is not the most stable or is abusive in some way, sometimes the bathroom is your only physically safe space.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think, a lot of people do go and use that environment as their safe space, or as their like sanctuary, if you will. And it's interesting because like I've actually even done sessions with people in their bathrooms because that's like the only place that they can like close the door, lock the door, get away from, the other people that are in their home, or that they feel comfortable enough to actually share in. So I do think it's interesting how it is like specifically the bathroom, or sometimes for some of my like clients that I've worked with, it was like their closet. That was like their safe space. But
I've never seen that one. The car is the number one therapy spot because you drive to that far spot in the Sonic parking lot or, wherever. Like you drive wherever you want and no one else is around me. So I feel like if clients are going to be somewhere sort of secluded, but like the bathroom thing's been going on.
Yeah,
what parent doesn't extend their bathroom break to get away from their kids for a quick reset?
For sure.
Like these things have just been happening. And I'm with you of like, there's certain contexts, and especially for yourself as you're naming with overstimulation. I'm like, wow, that makes a ton of sense. It can be so helpful.
Yeah.
And then I can think of circumstances where I'm like, this pattern is going to hold you back more than it will be.
Right.
Hey, let's move on to another trend. Floor time. Had you heard of floor time before?
No.
Here's the definition. Floor time, spending time lying on the floor, often with no other activity as a way to relax and distress. This practice, which has gained popularity on platforms like TikTok, is seen as a way to disconnect from overstimulation and find a moment of calm in a demanding world. I'm completely team floor time. Completely.
In every context, every setting?
Of course not. Of course, no. I can't ever.
Really walk that one back, huh?
I can't say in every. The internet, people love to make videos that it's like, this is the thing. And it's like, as therapists and psychologists, we're always like, change the nuance a little bit. All of a sudden you're like, well.
Yeah.
Here's why I love floor time. I think it does the things that bathroom time may do, but the context of the body lying on the floor stimulates relaxation for most people. And here's why. When you go into the bathroom, the visual cues that start picking up are long. In the bathroom, I do my makeup. I brush my hair. I brush my teeth. I obsess about my body. I use the toilet. I scroll on the phone. List goes on and on.
Sure.
How many activities when you lie down on the floor? And again, that's why this notion of usually doing nothing else, the mindfulness practitioner in me is like, wow. Like I get amped for this.
That was
idea.
Honestly the first thing that I thought of beyond even like mindfulness is at the end of every yoga class we do Savasana, where you just lay on the floor flat on your back and do nothing.
Breathe.
Right.
Body scan.
Right.
Notice what thoughts are coming to mind. What's my energy level? What's my mood? Am I aware of temperature in the body? Oh, I'm back to leading my mindfulness stress reduction classes. And I'm just psyched. And I think that's my bias of like, having taught this as a class, mindfulness stress reduction at the university level, when I would see, these 30 students, each class just lie there on the floor. No one's on their phone. And I'm just guiding them of like, just pay attention to the sounds you hear in the room. We know, and we got plenty of research to know how regulating this can be.
Yeah.
And some days your mind is going all over the place.
Sure.
Thinking, planning, I got this to do. I'm pissed. Why didn't they text me back? But even to just notice the thoughts coming to mind or create those little gaps where you're like, oh yeah, I did take a really deep breath right there. Felt my shoulders come down a little bit. Felt gravity pull me a little bit more fully into the floor as I, again, relaxed and gave way a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and there's also research behind this.
Of course.
That it helps with blood flow because you're not, myself currently right now, I'm in a pretzel because that's just who I am as a person. But oftentimes the ways that we're sitting prevents the blood flow throughout our entire body, right? So by laying in that position, it helps blood flow. It helps with reducing inflammation and stress and cortisol levels. It re-regulates even like your spine. And it also makes me think too, it is very grounding, no pun intended, right? Of like, there are very much impacts, whether it's like on the earth, like if you're at the beach or in the grass or, connecting with nature in some way, that even more benefit. But even on the floor of your home, very much it's just the position and the lack of all the sensory input.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would argue it wouldn't matter whether your eyes are open or closed because your visual the context coming in through the eyes isn't drawing up tons of other things. Where if I go into the bathroom right after this, I don't know what I would start doing. Like it would be harder for me to do nothing. And it's not like I've never bathroom camped. I've bathroom camped. Okay. But if after this, I go just lie on the floor for even 10 minutes, completely different experience for me. Completely. And again, yoga teacher training, the mindfulness background, I'm super biased on this one. But I just like it as a way to truly disconnect. Because we talk all the time about there's a war going on for our attention and it is not good for us.
Yeah.
So there's very few things I could think of that create disconnection from you and your phone and overstimulation that I probably wouldn't be a fan of.
Yeah.
Most things that get you separated from your phone for a period of time, I'm going to be like, probably a good thing to mix into your day. Yeah.
I don't disagree. It even makes me think about like when you are editing and you just lay on the floor. You're not necessarily laying on your back. You're usually on your stomach, but still you're always on the floor.
That was taught to me by a physical therapist when I was having like such bad sciatica. My first year being a therapist, because I was so crunched over like this, leaning in all session long.
Yeah.
He was like, can you do things where you like prop, your chest up, like lay on the floor, sort of in that pose. And so now that's how I edit. Like I lay on my stomach, pillow underneath, and like on my phone. It's not very regulating, but it's better for my body than crunched over, leaned over the phone. Like we all get caught up in throughout our days, which is not great for us to hold.
For sure. And I think it's interesting too, just like looking through all of like the videos on this. And of course, like people are floor timing in the middle of work and making it all the rage. But it's interesting how even in that context, you can still make that work if you want to. Like getting a private office or like reserving a meeting room and just full lay down.
This is all therapists everywhere. Are you really a therapist if you haven't taken a nap during work?
Oh, for sure. It's like a rite of passage.
I don't want to rat out like my former colleagues, but there hasn't been a system I worked in before private practice where people wouldn't like show up and they're like, oh yeah, I had a no show, so I took a little nap.
Yeah.
And people are like, yeah. Like it's just like the most therapist thing. I had an extra 50 minutes that just appeared in my schedule, so I laid down for 30, got up, wrote a note.
I was going to say, instead of doing your notes.
Instead of doing your
Instead
notes.
of catching up on the things that you probably are supposed to. It's fun.
Especially in the emotional weight of being a therapist, and when you can get that little gap to just shut it all down, lie on the floor, lie on your couch, if you can fit one in your office. I didn't have a couch in my office until private practice.
Really?
No, you always get this, especially in university counseling centers. Those offices are small. You're lucky.
You didn't have a couch?
No, I had the 2-chair setup just like this. Just like this.
Interesting.
There's no couch. Oh, to all those people I used to work with who had a couch in their office, must be nice to be rich, privileged, and famous. Just playing. But yes, I mean, sometimes, space is limited. They want to get as many therapists in there to serve whatever the population is. It's not always possible to get a nice wall where you can squeeze in a couch. Crashing out. You had to have known what this is.
This one I knew.
You knew.
I knew this one.
The official definition: reaching a breaking point and reacting emotionally, often in a way that's out of proportion to the situation.
Interesting. The out of proportion to the situation part is interesting to me.
In what way is that interesting to you?
Because sometimes I think it is kind of justified. But does that mean that you should completely, I don't know, either get violent or impulsive or act in ways that are congruent with that feeling? That part is, questionable. But yeah, the thought of it being out of proportion, like who is determining that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's always subjectivity in these things. It's interesting, but I think this definition of crashing out is different than just being pissed off.
Yeah.
Because pissed off is like a singular situation, a moment of road rage. You get an assignment put on your desk that is just sort of like, you don't want to do this, it's outside your scope or whatever it might be. But it's sort of singular when you're pissed off.
Yeah, as opposed to like the buildup.
It crashing out feels more like a buildup and an overwhelm. And I'm not saying sometimes people use these interchangeably, but if we're going by the definition, crashing out is like the weight of the world has just been stacking on you for a while. And then, you get the Chipotle order wrong and you open it when you're at home and you're like, I said guac. And there's no guac to be found. And you paid extra for that guac.
That is truly devastating. I would probably crash out. Anyway, with just no build-up needed.
I would need a build-up. But you did pay extra for the guac and you didn't get it. You ordered ahead. You just grabbed the bag. You opened it at home. I've been here before, people. Now I'm just venting. Just having my own therapy sesh. But it's this build-up where like enough is enough.
Yeah.
And you're so overwhelmed that it just comes out.
Yeah. It's funny because I think of like Britney circa 2007, like
shaving her
full
head,
shaved head, running around with the umbrella. Like, I've had enough.
There's a lot. I can't imagine the amount on pop star Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Not just the celebrity, but child celebrity and
just all the pressure.
That
continues to build.
Yeah.
And then especially when you are someone who's in the public eye, you're constantly being scrutinized and put under pressure to behave in a certain way. And then it's almost like the volcano erupts and then,
yes, I think people crash out a lot in therapy. The amount of times I've crashed out in my own therapy sessions where you're like building, waiting for therapy, and you're like, so much crap has happened.
Yeah.
Like, and it just comes flooding out
Yes.
of like, you just feel hopeless or overwhelmed and nothing's going right. And you're like, this is BS.
Mhm.
And again, it just floods out.
Yeah. Is this something that you think is helpful, not helpful? Depends on the situation, somewhere in between.
Of course, I'm going to say it depends. Again, is this a chronic pattern for you? That's where my mind goes again. Of like, is this something where the stress just builds up, you crash out like, every couple of weeks or month, and you find yourself just like emotionally raging because you didn't get your guac. Like, it's an issue, and it's not about the guac. And it is, but it's about all these other stresses, pressures, lack of control,
right?
Emotional buildup. And it's looking behind that curtain of being like, why is this volcano forming?
Right.
And what is creating it? But I don't know many people who could say they've never crashed out.
No.
I wouldn't believe you if you said that. You're like, I've never crashed out. What?
I think if someone told me that they've never crashed out, I'd be a little bit concerned for them, honestly. Like, how are you getting any kind of release? And also, like, are you even a human?
I think someone would argue of like, I'm so mindful that I just release and let be. I practice my non-attachment, and I just don't attach myself to those kinds of things. And I've never crashed out, as it were.
If you were someone who was like truly a Buddhist monk or something, maybe.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Like, even still.
Maybe. I think for most of us, though, you're going to crash out.
Yeah.
You're going to have these experiences. And again, getting curious of like, what is the buildup for you? Right. Is it work? Is it frustration in dating? Is it, constantly battling intrusive thoughts or overstimulation? What are these factors here? Because if we don't know what's creating the volcano, like the eruption is just the combination and the buildup of all these other things.
Right. Well, and again, it makes me think of what is happening in that buildup that you're not getting any release.
Exactly.
Right. So like, if you are either not setting boundaries, or you are not checking in with yourself, or you are, people pleasing to the max, or taking on too many things, or not prioritizing self-care, not taking care of yourself in all the ways. Yeah, there is likely to be a crash out or some kind of volcano eruption.
It's coming
at some point.
And it goes back to the burnout episode that we recorded. Listen back if you didn't already. But, some people you're stuck in systems.
Right.
That we've talked about are polluting the water and the fish. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
And we talked about like, it's not always easy just to change a system or leave a system. We all need work and money. But what we're doing to try to offset the toxicity of the job that we're at for so many hours a day becomes really important.
Right.
And it's not to blame you for it, but if you're not leaving that water, we have to get really experimental and creative about, like, to your point, like, how are we balancing this out to avoid the crash out?
Yeah.
And we talk about routines all the time. We talk about working out. We talk about having, emotional connections, community. Like, we could go on and on with the different like levers we can pull, but we got to try something.
Right. Because the way that I think about it is, if you have like a can of Coke and you just continuously shake it, at a certain point, it's going to explode. So that's kind of inevitable. And our bodies are very much geared in the same way of like, if you can, twist the top off just a little bit. And
I was thinking
let
can.
some of the, I guess I said can. That was probably a poor choice.
But I think bottle works better for your metaphor because you can twist it on and off.
Because if you like twist it a little bit and like let out some of the bubbles every like so often, then it doesn't fully explode all over you when you try to open it.
There's someone somewhere it's like, but I don't want a flat Coke. You do when it comes to your emotional and stressful well-being.
Yeah.
You want that to be flat. You don't want it to be too spicy. Something about a spicy Coke from McDonald's just always
Hits different.
Hits different. How about using trending audios to express pain on social media? Pain or something mental health related. There's a different trend like every week, but a lot of like probably needed a hug is sort of the starting prompt. And then the music tone changes a little bit and they talk about what they did instead. And these things that they do instead go from probably needed a hug, went for a run instead. Probably needed a hug, bought too much on Amazon instead. Probably needed a hug, went for a quiet drive. Like they go from sort of coping mechanisms that you're like, oh, and to stuff that you're like, oh, like, uh-oh. And there's also the trend of like, you look happier. And then it's like, thanks. And it's either something sort of heartwarming and you're like, oh, nice. Oh my gosh, good for you. Or something that you're like, I'm concerned about you. What do you think of this notion of like, especially Gen Z, millennials, if you're not an ancient millennial like me, using these sort of trends to express something sort of vulnerable, emotional?
Yeah, I think it's great that there is this culture now where we can talk about those things without it being taboo or without it, without people looking at you from this weird lens or being like, why are you sharing that? Or like, that's personal. Don't talk about that. And I appreciate this culture where we are able to just talk about those things openly. And it's just part of like a day-to-day conversation. It's not this taboo thing. And I think the trends very much normalize that, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, I overall love it.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing unique ways of people expressing themselves. That's not just like, a lot of people, they're just not going to film themselves and be like, you know what, I've gone through a really hard time and I went through this like breakup. But for me, I found, a meditation practice or gardening or again, it doesn't matter what it is, but them sharing this thing that's helped them get through life.
Yeah.
As a therapist, why wouldn't you be a fan of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially because for some people, that is where they're getting their ideas for coping or their even validation of or connection. Like, yeah, I did that too. And that was really helpful for me. Or I never would have thought of that tool to use. Or it's really cool to see that you went to therapy and you had such a great experience and now you're feeling so much better. Or that you started taking medication for your mental health and your entire life feels different now. So I think the fact that people are talking about it more and it's becoming more normalized and it's something that is like less scary to talk about, or like, just like you said, kind of talking at the camera about your entire experience. It's an easier way or a lighter way of bringing up a lot of those conversations and sharing your experience and being vulnerable, but in a way that feels very normalized, which I think is incredible.
The times I feel opposite is when it feels like it's either exaggerated or it feels like, oh, I don't know if that's going to lead somewhere good. Like, you look happier. Thanks. I cut everyone out of my life.
Yeah.
I blocked all my old, quote, friends. And again, I see these things sometimes where I'm like, oh, like you're kind of like, I'm sure maybe there's some context there that maybe shines sort of a different light on it. But it's sort of like, could someone else see this and be like, yeah, these people that disagree with me, I better just cut them all out.
Right. Or using coping tools that maybe aren't the healthiest.
And again, I see it a lot.
Sure.
And this is where people like, if you're not on social media, and again, I'm not trying to pick on boomers here, but I think it's easy to point out the like one story that like Fox News picked up that's like, oh, this teenager saw this coping strategy on this viral trend app. And now they're hospitalized.
Yeah.
And it's like you pick up the one. But I think there's a bit of how could this impact others?
Mm-hmm.
And some people never think about that. And I'm not trying to tell you necessarily you have to,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know where that video is going to go. You don't know like what 14-year-old, 15-year-old might see that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're leaving out a ton of context
Right.
that could impact someone. And I'm still way more sort of on the other side of like, yeah, express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Let your truth out there. Be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think you got to reflect a little bit.
Sure. I mean, I think that's important too, even as a consumer, right?
Right.
Looking at other people's videos and having like some discernment of, is this something that actually would be helpful, or is that something that maybe isn't the most adaptive strategy, right? But when you're especially 12, 13, 14 years old, sometimes you don't have that same level of discernment and might not necessarily know, okay, this is sarcasm, or like this is exaggerated, or this, might not actually be the healthiest thing to engage with.
And people will argue like, well, they shouldn't be on social media, but they are.
But they
people.
are, right.
And that's the part where I'm like, you can blame sort of the app for that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but like, is anybody that naive to think that there's not 14-year-olds right now on Instagram Reels or on TikToks? Of course there are.
Right.
So what are we talking about? If you know there are, and it's not about pleasing everybody, but there are, like, it's more rare that I'll come across a video and be like, I worry that I can think of a bunch of clients I treat or work with. I worry that if they saw that video, and I think it can just be, we can become a little self-righteous in the, well, who cares?
Yeah.
It's my truth. I wish people would care a little bit.
Sure. I agree with that. I mean, overall, I think it's great.
We agree
that people are talking more about mental health.
Totally.
And that it's becoming a mainstream like topic of conversation, because again, I don't think we growing up talked very much about mental health or like had any kind of conversations about emotions or how you're feeling. Those were never things that like came up in school or in our conversations in high school.
Never.
And so for people that are in high school or middle school or whatever it is now, to even have those conversations or topics of conversation be normalized and be things that people can talk about, I think it just very much opens the door for more nuanced conversations and for more support from other people, right? Because if you're feeling more comfortable talking about those things, it's less taboo to open up to someone or to ask for help or to, provide support for other people or check in with others.
Without question, without a doubt. And overall, it's like the more forms of self-expression, the better, whatever the outlet or medium is going to be.
Yeah. It's almost like a different art form.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And you see people who are so good, so clever, so authentic and connecting. There's just some people that can really convey a message, really, really well. And I think that's the cool part. Like if you're not, again, there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to social media. It's not all good. It's not necessarily all bad, but on the good side is sort of like seeing people convey something of hope, or you're like, oh, that's so creative or interesting. Like I would have never thought of it that way or thought of using that as a coping strategy.
Right.
And yeah, it's good to think about what you're being fed in your feed and how you curate that. All right, we got another one. Quiet quitting. Have you heard of quiet quitting before?
Okay, this one, in full transparency, I had never heard of. And I wish I knew before we recorded our burnout episode last week.
We could have reached some more Gen Z audience out there and be like, yo, quiet quitting, no cap. Here's the definition. Quiet quitting, also known as soft quitting or employee disengagement, refers to employees who fulfill their basic job responsibilities but stop going above and beyond, effectively quitting on the extra effort. It's a response to burnout, overwork, and perceived lack of recognition, not necessarily a full departure from the company. Instead of resigning, these employees mentally disengage, reducing their participation and productivity, often doing the minimum. I mean, we recorded a whole episode on burnout, quiet quitting.
I know.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting because I feel like some of the things that we talked about in terms of coping and managing if you are feeling either burnt out or kind of stuck in a certain toxic culture within work, a lot of that was this, right? The detachment, the disengagement, the boundary setting, essentially. And it's interesting, like when I think about that definition, doing like the minimum requirements, I'm like, yeah, isn't that what the job is? Right? Like in some context, right? Like, I mean, I know I would never think of doing that within like my work in this situation, but I don't know. I guess maybe that's because we're in private practice and like I don't have that. Yeah, it feels very different. But yeah, like, isn't that what the job requirements are? Like, if you're meeting them, then what's the issue?
Don't let some middle manager in corporate America hear you say that. Don't you have any pride for this family company you work for?
Come at me, Howard. I'll school you.
But it goes against, you know, the whole American corporation, corporate America sort of mindset that it's like, oh, shouldn't you be doing more? Oh, you don't really care enough. You don't have that work ethic. You don't work hard enough here. Where I agree, like quiet quitting, and I've seen these articles coming out over the last few years of like Gen Z isn't buying into corporate America. They're like, wait, what does it say on my contract? What are my job requirements here? Oh, I work 30 hours here, right? I worked 38 last week.
Right.
Explain that to me. And everyone knows of like how that gets bent and turned. Well, you know, sometimes we do a little bit extra and a shipment comes in and all these things sort of bending it of you're not getting paid for this or this isn't part of your job, but you're really helping us out. You're definitely helping us out. But when you try to take that day off in the middle of our busy season because you're burned out, we're not showing you any grace.
Yeah.
It's a no. You're not taking that vacation. But it does. It's a response to this one-way street, top-down mentality of we will constantly ask you to do the most for us, but we don't really care about your well-being.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, if that's how it's going to be, then I'm going to follow what's on my contract.
Right.
And I'm going to do the minimum.
Which to me makes sense because you're kind of matching their energy.
Are they doing extra for you?
Right.
That's my question. What extra are you doing for me? You pay for my lunches every day? I don't know. If you pay for my lunch every day, I might do a little something extra. If every day you're like, hey, wait, where do you want to eat today? And I'm like, ooh, nice perk. Need me for an extra hour every now and then? I might trade that out for a lunch.
Guac is extra.
You got to pay for the guac on your own, though. But it's the point of like, if you just think of it more of the two-way street of what are they doing extra for you, but how often are they expecting you to do extra for them?
Well, and I think about it even from like more of a transactional lens as opposed to like if we take the relational aspect out of it for just a second, which I know you never can, but if we kind of remove that for just a second and we think about the transaction of what a job entails and what your work requirements are and your job description actually is, if you're meeting all of those things, great. I don't even see that necessarily from the lens of like, I'm giving up or I'm not doing enough. Because if you're meeting your requirements, you're doing enough. But there is this culture, and I think, again, especially within the US, like we have this hustle culture that is very much built in, and capitalism and all of the pressures of that it doesn't really feel that way. So it's interesting that there is a term for this detachment, if you will.
I think all the salary workers out there listening to this are like shaking their heads, because I think that's where they get you the most.
Yeah.
The salary worker, where there's ambiguity in that contract. Listen, I've dealt with that in the systems I've worked in.
Sure.
You will be expected to step up to do outreach, on weekends as it arises. What?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What's as it arises? How often does it arise that I'm coming in on Saturday when I've seen 30 plus clients, ran 4 groups, did all the therapist things during the week?
Yeah.
And listen, I think this happens not just in corporate America, but many systems where it's like, well, this is just sort of the expectation. And this is where I think the more explicitly you can define it, the better it is for everyone.
Right.
2 times a semester, you will be expected to come in either at night after work or on a weekend to do a form of outreach. Perfect. We all know, twice a semester.
Right.
Not 4, not 5, not when I'm planning my trip to Bermuda. But, this is the number. And I think a lot of systems, they avoid being very transparent about that, and they keep on purpose,
right,
so they can keep the power over you. And this is where it gets so tricky. These are situations I've dealt with so many times with clients of like, what can we do about this, and how can we bring this up as a concern and also leverage your contract? But some contracts are written so vague that they can sort of leverage back, well, it's just from time to time, we're going to have an extra truck come in and we need you there, even though you were doing truck last week until 2 a.m.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think about all of the systems that I've worked in and the feeling that you're not able to speak up, you're not able to set boundaries, you're not able to challenge the system that you're working in for whatever reason, right? Whether that is the fear of repercussions, or if there is the power differential, which in 99% of dynamics, you and your supervisor, there is a power differential, of course. So it makes it very hard to be able to have those conversations or to really define exactly what is expected. And then there's the threats of the performance reviews and, well, you didn't go above and beyond, or how did you meet these requirements, or what else did you do in addition to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that wasn't in the job description.
I do think there are professional ways that you can lean in to be like, I want to know specifically what this metric is. So I know that, again, I'm meeting this, standard.
Right.
And when it's kept vague, that doesn't feel good for me. Yeah. A collective of voices sort of like targeting something like this in a system, I've seen it create change.
Yeah.
Of none of us like that this is vague. And we feel like, we want to help this company and we'd like it to be a specific metric so we know. I've been surprised at sort of the wave that I've seen, especially in clients' narratives, where this has created change.
Yeah.
Of enough people really professionally, whatever the hell that means, but not crashing out maybe. And really addressing this of like, can you understand from my perspective that this not being a measurable metric doesn't make me feel very confident.
Right.
Make sure that I'm doing the best for Peterson and Johnson Inc. over here.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is something that is really cool that, again, we're kind of normalizing the fact that, yeah, why is everyone going above and beyond? And this is a culture of burnout, and this is what this is promoting. It feels like this is kind of the, consequence of the burnout culture. And hopefully now, with all of that awareness and with people recognizing that this isn't just a me thing, this is an all of us thing, that there is more empowerment within that to either speak up or band together or, check in with a union for some people or, feel more empowered to create change in whatever way that is, whether that is having those conversations with management or leadership, or whether that is framing work from a different lens for yourself so that you're able to have that feeling of detachment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's easy to see when you just keep zooming out of like, who does this serve?
Mm-hmm.
It serves the people of the most power, CEOs, shareholders, owners. It serves a very small but wealthy pool.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly doesn't serve the masses.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance that goes into it, as with all these things, but you're able to sort of evaluate of like, what is this for and who is this serving and what can I reasonably do about it and support my life.
Right. And again, I think overarchingly, just having those conversations and having terminology for a lot of these things that we're talking about is so helpful, because it makes you realize that you are not the only person experiencing these things, or this is something that you can use to counteract some of the challenges that the majority of people are experiencing, whether it is burnout, whether it is overstimulation or overwhelm or mental health or whatever, right? Just having more of those terms and conversations and normalizing these constructs, I think is so helpful, because it, again, gives normalcy to the experience that the majority of people are having, so that any one person isn't feeling like they are on an island by themselves, which I think social media is really great for. Just having that community, having other people that you can relate to and see also going through similar struggles, or having had experiences that you've had, or feelings like you've had, and things that they might have done differently, or things that you might be able to try for yourself, obviously,
Whether it's social media community, coworker community, other Dungeons and Dragons community, it's really interesting how it does all come down to that.
Yeah.
Of like being seen, expressing yourself, and having that connection.
Totally.
Hey, we always enjoy having this connection with you. I hope you learned some things. We did.
I know I did.
Jackie definitely did. Catch her bathroom camping immediately after this. Me, I'm going to take some floor time. But thanks for hanging out with us, as always. Hey, starting next week, listener questions. Going to be answering your questions each and every week about all things mental health. So thanks for dropping in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.